Hello, everybody. My name is Haley Gunther, and today I'm going to be discussing my research regarding the impact of single-use containers in the age of a pandemic. To begin, it's important to understand why plastics have dominated the single-use industry. As we all know, plastics are convenient because they are lightweight, inexpensive, and easy to pack, ship, and store. They are also seen as sanitary because of the hygienic nature of a plastic container, which can snap shut and protect the inside food from the outside environment. Finally, plastics have allowed for the easy implementation of tamper-proof innovations, which again increases the safety of the containers and the sanitation of the contents. Because plastics provide such a strong connection to safety and sanitation, they were the go-to material when the pandemic hit. Especially in restaurants that transitioned to takeout only, single-use plastic containers became a necessity of everyday life. Throughout the pandemic, the trade-off of the health of the environment in order to ensure personal safety was greatly evident. With this background knowledge in mind, the purpose of this study was to better understand how the magnitude of single-use containers entering the environment, specifically from restaurants, has been affected by the pandemic. To get an idea of the increase in single-use containers as a result of the pandemic, I used UCLA dining hall container data from both 2019 and 2020. By comparing the pre-pandemic and the pandemic years, I calculated the percentage increase in the number of containers purchased. Additionally, I compared the 2020 data on a quarterly basis to see how a normal quarter of container use compared to 2 COVID quarters. These are the results gathered from the calculations of the UCLA container data. On the graph on the left, the darker bars represent the number of containers bought during a normal year pre-pandemic. The light bars represent the container data from 2020, which was during the pandemic. As is shown by the graph, there was a total 625% increase in plastic containers at UCLA during 2020, despite the fact that there was actually a 94% decrease in students living on campus. In the graph on the right, I took the 2020 container data and grouped it into a quarterly basis. My goal in doing this was to represent the increase in containers bought during a normal quarter, which was winter 2020, and the 2 COVID quarters, which was spring and fall of 2020. With this calculation, it was found that there were 40 times the number of containers purchased in spring quarter and 219 times the number of containers bought in fall quarter when compared to the normal winter quarter. There are some factors of the data that must be considered when analyzing the results. On the left is the UCLA container data that was used to calculate the number of containers purchased in 2020. From this data, it was found that the order number for all the container types are quite low towards the beginning of the year, but slowly increase in number towards the later months. The possible reasons for this is that 1, the dining halls did not transition to takeout until mid-March, and therefore there were very few containers ordered until then. Secondly, it could be that UCLA predicted that there may be a campus closure and thus started preparing for the minimization of students by putting the container orders on hold. Thirdly, it could be that there were COVID-related issues within the supply chain, and UCLA was not able to secure the containers that would have normally been ordered. So why is this important to consider? If the order numbers were artificially low because of one of the above reasons, then the calculations for the total percentage increase in containers is artificially high in the quarterly breakdown graph, which indicated a near 13,000% increase in total container use because of the pandemic. In conclusion, it is evident from the data collected that COVID has had a large impact on the amount of single-use containers and plastics entering the environment. On the upside, however, people are recognizing the large impact that the pandemic has had and are working to reduce this. For example, a new policy is considering a ban of disposable napkins and utensils in restaurants, which would obviously greatly reduce the amount of plastics entering the environment every day. It remains to be seen whether or not society will continue with an emphasis on takeout post-pandemic, especially in university settings, where buffet-style dining halls can act as a catalyst to increase virus spread. However, although the calculations in this data are bleak, there is still hope for the future. Innovative ideas, such as having mealworms eat plastic or creating biodegradable containers that are made of fungi mycelium, are working to reduce the amount of plastic pollution in the environment. It is important to recognize that the problem of plastic pollution is large, but it is not insurmountable. It is up to us to figure out how to have new and creative ways to combat and overcome this problem. Thank you to everyone who listened in on this presentation. I hope it was informative and helped inspire the change makers out there to find new and unique solutions to combat the issues surrounding single-use containers. Lastly, I would like to say a special thank you to Dr. Monica Smith, who was my research mentor throughout this project and helped me greatly with every aspect of it, Dr. Rebecca Scheip, who was my research advisor, and Aaron Fabris, who provided the UCLA container data, which was used to perform the calculations throughout my project. Thank you all so much again for listening. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.